the most important appointment we'll ever make. So bear with us, because I really want to know what you think. And you should be able to tell us that pretty much without having to do any research.
Right.
Have you read the charter?
No, I haven't.
Okay, all right.
I didn't know that that was one of the things that would have been.
Well, I would presume
I just wanted to clarify one thing that just so everyone's aware. On December 31st, our office sent an email to all the applicants. Your email's on here because it's also on your
that I should
application. But it says, at their meeting on Tuesday, January 13, 2009, the selectmen will be reviewing your application. You are invited to be in attendance at this meeting. So
that doesn't say to me that I'm going to be interviewed. That didn't say that to me. But maybe just I misunderstood.
That's fine. You know, I'll use a teacher expression since that was your avocation.
Right.
In my opinion, it should be homework for everybody who comes to a town meeting, that they have reviewed the charter at least once. It makes sense to me that it would be complicated if you haven't read it, because I believe I've read it, and I don't think I'm any genius. I'm, you know, an average person.
Second.
And I think that would carry. I've read it, and it does tend to make some sense if you really, you know.
I'll be happy to read it. I just didn't know that that was expected of me.
No, that's fine. That's fine. You answered the question.
Okay. Selectman Cronin.
Well, good evening. Thank you for putting in your application. Is it Furler or?
Yes.
Okay.
F-U-R-L-E-R.
Yeah, okay. Well, just a question that I asked the others, and I'll ask you, which we just found out. Do you think the charter is outdated? You haven't read it yet, so you can't really answer the one question I have. The reason I asked that question is, so you know, I think every 9 or 10 years reviewing this is ludicrous. Absolutely. It should be done probably the same time that these 5 people go for re-election every 3 years. I agree with you at town meeting also. So I would ask you to get the charter, read it, and then just answer yourself a question. If you really want to be on this committee, is this thing outdated or not?
I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, and then lastly, you know, I'll just add that it sounds as though you have some experience with town meeting. You came to.
I've come to them regularly since I've gotten here.
Okay, so if you see that as something that is a weakness, then you know that's something that you need to consider as you review the charter and read through it and decide. You know, again, I'll just go back to, you know, not necessarily what's tradition, but what's the best for the community. So whatever that ultimately is, sometimes it's tradition. So
good.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have Edward Pasevitz.
Good evening, all. Eddie Pasevich, 42 McKinley Street in Wareham.
All right. Selectman Ekstrom?
I have no questions.
No questions. Selectman Donahue?
I have a feeling I know what prompted you to come. Could I answer the question for you? What prompted you to put your name in for the committee, Mr. Pasevich?
Well, I've been a resident in Wareham for 10 years, and I haven't missed a town meeting. I could say that would be enough, but if you want to get a little more into it, the town meeting, in my mind, is acting like a quagmire. Doesn't allow the town to go forward. I see different factions in the town meeting voting not necessarily what's best for the town, but what's best for them as individuals. And I think the whole concept of the town meeting is broken. And I think that's one of the major changes that has to take place, because if it remains the same, I think the future for Wareham is very dim. Very dim.
Thank you.
Selectman Savageaux?
So then I'm presuming you're an advocate for at least looking at different forms of government as opposed to the narrow scope of, changing individual provisions of the charter.
In my mind, I think that we have to look at a whole new type of government as far as the town of Wareham is concerned, whether that is a mayor and councilman, whether that's a different formation of the board, with involvement, direct involvement, or possibly a full-time board, a smaller board that works full-time. I'm open to anything, and I have reviewed the charter, and for a town this size now of over 20,000 people, it might have worked when it was 2,000 or 3,000. It doesn't work anymore.
Well, not to put you on the spot, but I know you've been at every meeting because I've seen you, and I know you're active at those meetings. And I wish we could, clone people that would be more active and more engaged and involved. So obviously you have an opinion based on personal observations over a long period of time. I'm just curious because I'm constantly wondering this question and I can't answer it myself. Why do you think this happened? How do you think, or why do you think it got to the point where it's irreparable as far as a process that doesn't seem to be working for the greater interests of the greater community?
I've actively been out trying to get people to come to the meeting. We all have. And I'm faced with people saying it's corrupt, can't get anything done. There's a select group that they run the town meeting and we never get a word in edgewise. You name it, right down the line. Whatever reason they have, it all comes down to the same thing. Town meeting doesn't work anymore. For whatever reason, the individuals think it doesn't work, and that's why they're not attending. I grew up and lived in Brockton, which is a city, but they had a council with a mayor without a town meeting. And it worked very well because each council had a specific district, and if there was an issue that you wanted to address, you went to your councilman who covered your specific geographical area. You broached that problem with him. He took it to the city council. It was discussed. It might have been approved, resolved, and that's the way it worked. And I can see a similar thing happening here, maybe broken down on district lines as far as representatives to each one of the voting districts. And people that have issues, they go to their representative, and then it's brought into a city council. There's other avenues also. I'm open-minded for what we end up with as a final result. But I'm very clear on the fact that the current charter, I don't see realistically anything that you can save in it.
Mr. Chairman, if I can ask one last question. So this is not going to be, well, there's nothing typical about a charter review, but this is not going to be the typical review of a document, an instrument. This is, for you, a wholesale change. That's going to take a great deal of time personally. The question isn't how do you remove a system. The question obviously is how do you institute a brand new system and all the many details that will go into that, reinventing the wheel, so to speak. Will you have the personal time to be able to devote to something? That's an enormous task.
I will. I'm currently retired, and I do. That's why I put in for this job. I realize the importance of this. We discussed it a couple times at some of the vision sessions. To me, this is the most important thing that can happen to the town of Wareham if we're going to proceed in the future and end up with a viable town.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Selectman Cronin?
Well, again, thank you, sir, for coming in. I think you answered the question that I've asked the previous applicants.